we are partnering with the big gorilla in the room, the biggest market right across the world, Binance. And we are very lucky today to have with us Sam Kiza. He is in charge of cybersecurity right across the continent for this organization. So he's here to talk to us about how, the why, literally how to get into the market, what to look out for, how to stay safe, and of course, how you will get into this space and make a bit of money. I want to bring him in right now. Sam, karibu sana, as we say here, welcome. Let's start off by you talking to us and telling us a bit about yourself, a bit about Binance, how you got into this space.
Thank you so much, Mukaba, and thank you so much for your listeners. So I'm Sam Kiza. I'm based in South Africa, Johannesburg. I'm an attorney by training, and then I initially started off in attorney's practice, did quite a bit of work in the telecommunications, media and technology space, then moved into the banking industry, leveraging quite a bit of my legal knowledge, working a lot in your financial technology and regulatory technology divisions, heading up the compliance department in several banks, before eventually making the move into the unknown, into the crypto asset industry. And my skills are primarily, obviously, in regulatory law, financial regulatory law, and also overall technology and finance.
Well, that's good to know, Sam. Please continue. Sorry.
Yeah, and then just a bit about Binance. Just a synopsis. We're obviously a massive exchange. We're the largest exchange by trade volumes in the world. We operate out of various jurisdictions across the world. We're licensed in 20 jurisdictions. And we continuously continue to grow from strength to strength, and have now obviously attempted to set up shop in Africa, looking at various African countries, including South Africa and other countries, such as setting up a presence and starting conversations in other countries such as Ghana and also Kenya.
Well, it's a really good time to be having this conversation, especially seeing as the bull market has since returned after this really long bear market. We've seen the cryptocurrency market hit new highs consistently over the past, so to say, 10 days to 2 weeks. We've seen Bitcoin start off from around the $60,000 mark, be able to hit new highs, surpass 70, then 80, and every time we thought that it would be turning back for the retracement or encountering resistance, we've seen it surpass that. And yesterday, hitting the $90,000 mark and surpassing that to 93,000. So really good times ahead, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we're seeing is exponential growth across the industry. I think it's obviously driven heavily by various developments across the globe, including the US election. Mm-hmm. And I think we'll continue to the industry growth and trend. But of course, just tying back to our topic today, what increased growth obviously means increased heightened security risk, because it means that you're talking to a lot more people attempting to onboard, understand the platform, engage in the platform, and obviously you then also have your opportunists who want to take advantage of that.
So for a lot of people who then want to essentially come into this space, the conversation is that they've heard that the coins are hitting these new highs. They really are interested in coming into the market, and then they hear that this is, well, it's good to get in, but that you shouldn't buy in at the top of the market, because who knows, you might then see a sort of turnaround. But so to say, where do you get started? And I think this is what is most important. How do I know that I'm getting into Binance? We've seen different sorts of scams, people trying to get onto the Binance website, working through intermediaries, getting brokered, so to say, those sorts of things. So how do we know that we are doing this the right way?
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest challenges with intermediaries is that you never know whether or not they are legitimate, or in the alternative are trying to carry out their own nefarious nefarious acts. Given that what we see in the market is that Binance obviously has a very simple platform. We really attempt to really motivate people and really drive people into engaging the platform on their own accord. We've also got the Binance Academy as part and parcel of our platform, which effectively seeks to educate people about the various products we have. We obviously can never really give financial advice, but what we can do is tell you exactly what the product is, what it does, and just give you the tools of trade. And that's what Binance is really able to do. What we've unfortunately seen is a lot of people joining various platforms, including Binance, using intermediaries. Often the intermediaries put themselves out to be experts, managing millions in portfolios, promising larger than life returns, promising to grow their returns tenfold sometimes. And these are things we really guard against. And I'll give examples. So, very prominent scams or investment scams, where people are often aware. They prey sometimes on elderly people, knowing that people may have pension payouts, and they really take advantage of people attempting to put themselves out to be experts in the market, telling people to put money into a particular pot or a particular wallet and watch it grow. It's often a very small amount initially. It's then coupled with your very vague things like insurance, things like paying to get more value, and all of these are non-existent on our platforms. And which is why we really try to drive people to using the platform on their own and getting to know it and understanding it. What we really try to do is that ensuring that once you're on the platform, you don't engage anyone outside the platform. For instance, as and when you trade using a peer-to-peer transaction, you keep everything in platform. We don't want any side engagement. Some people, for instance, scammers will often try to draw you towards other platforms. They'll try to draw you towards a chat on WhatsApp, confirming a payment, which is obviously fraudulent, which was never done. And we obviously attempt to do our part as well as an exchange by conducting know your client procedures, onboarding clients, conducting the due diligence. As and when we see suspicious behavior, we conduct the enhanced due diligence, really in an attempt to protect our clients. But ultimately, the protection lies with you. It's on your ability to ensure that you know that you're engaging with the platform. You're not giving your pins to anyone you don't know. You're not giving away you're not giving away any of your crypto assets or sending your money to anyone, and are really purely engaged in investment and are learning as to how to do it on platform.
Mm-hmm. So essentially, to unpack what you're saying, then the first thing, of course, is to remind people that we're not offering financial advice. We're simply giving you information that you can use to make good financial decisions, informed financial decisions about you and your money and where you want to put it and invest and what sort of returns to expect. So that's the first thing. Number two, the sort of thing that there's no easy money out there, that you have to do your own research. You have to take the time to learn the platforms. You have to take the time to learn the mechanisms. You have to take the time to learn the onboarding. For example, many people will complain about that the platform is asking for so much information, but like you've said, KYC, know your customer. And that then if people are asked to get onto a space where these requirements are not there, that they should then know that there might be a challenge, right?
Absolutely. And I think any prudent and legitimate platform will always ask a lot of information up front. And the reasons are effectively to ensure that we're not enabling things like illicit flows of funds, money laundering, potentially terror financing as well. We really try to ensure that we know exactly who we're dealing with to the warm body, to an extent that even when we're dealing with corporates, we knuckle right down to the beneficial owner. To ensure that we know exactly who we're dealing with. And often what we've seen on the platforms, for instance, is that as and when we're able to detect fraudulent or scam-like behavior, we're obviously able to arrest that. We are able to freeze funds as and when necessary. We're able to block potential or alleged at that point in time scammers and conduct a thorough investigation, which at times may slow trades down, but it's a necessary type of impediment. Given that its ultimate purpose is to protect other users against people who want to use the platform illicitly.
So then, knowing that Binance, as the largest marketplace with so many different people coming onto its platform, has been really proactive in terms of trying to figure out the who, the how, getting to know your customers, getting to know the threats. What are the most common types of cyber threats that you're seeing targeting crypto users in Africa?
Yeah, so I think the one we've picked up on is obviously the investment scams. Given looking at the African continent as well, we've obviously got very high levels of unemployment in different countries, and people often take advantage of that. We also see employment scams where people attempt to encourage people to put up a deposit in order to secure certain interviews, and we really got against that. Another one which we often see, I think everyone would have been aware of the Tinder swindler. And we see romance scams where people attempt to persuade people that they don't, often, again, they know exactly, they often profile their targets, the information is there, and they are able to take advantage of certain things. They attempt to, promise unwavering love to people, and in exchange for gifts and money. All of these are prominent scams that we see. Others, for example, being things like giveaways, but all these giveaways often are premised with with a deposit that your small amount, which they often ask you to put up front, a small amount, sometimes negligible amount, that they ask you to put up front before they're able to process this interview or this gift for you. And then often after that, you never hear of them. The number's blocked, and you've been scammed. And these are things we really attempt to educate users on. Be very vigilant with respect to those types of scams where third parties are attempting to almost fish and act, put themselves out to be people that you don't know, using information which they could have obtained through open sources, and also phishing behavior, which is effectively people who may call and put themselves out as someone they aren't, getting a very important personal information.
Mm-hmm. So then let's get deep into this space and ask, what are the proactive ways in which markets like Binance have been able to then work to give their clients, so to say, tools, sort of edge to keep them safe in this space. And here I'm starting to think about the sorts of things like two-factor authentication. I'm thinking about the passkeys and those sorts of things. Can we outline those?
Yeah, so we obviously rely heavily on multi-factor authentication. So we don't merely rely on a password. We may rely on something like a fingerprint. In the alternative, we may send an OTP to a different address, not unrelated to the one you've provided, a secondary one, which we'd require before you onboard. Now, that's a very important one, given that it ensures that we at the very least have a good indication that the person we are dealing with or interfacing with is the holder of the account. Secondly, and very importantly, we also attempt to encourage people to be very alert and vigilant with respect to the various emails and phishing attempts. Often you'll find often scammers will send you an email saying, you have X type of crypto assets sitting in X account. Please click on this link to access. And often that is then used to penetrate your systems, and at times even install malware, which effectively results in your own protective systems almost hallucinating. And it's really interesting that tech hallucinates, but that's exactly what happens. And they're then able to use that to penetrate, obtain personal information, obtain very important details, things like date of birth, IDs, potentially passwords, which may have been saved on open sources, and using that to then access your both your crypto accounts, bank accounts, and others. So these are all things which as I alluded to earlier, we encourage people to read our Binance Academy, because often we often have a whole theme around data privacy, information security, cybersecurity, ensuring that people are aware of these common scams. We send notifications out to people just to be aware of things that are happening, especially now looking at the bull market. You're going to see these a lot more prevalently, and we really try to ensure that people are aware, given that in this instance, I think with respect to security, knowledge is always power. In addition, what we then also do, which is I'll call it a more reactive type of mechanism, is that as and when we detect potential scam-like behavior, we are then able to freeze and block. And we're able to ensure, for example, that we'll conduct an enhanced due diligence exercise to ensure that we know it's you. So, for instance, we'll ask you to provide us with a source of funds where we see that the funds are much higher than what we usually see. At times, we may ask for additional information on the transaction. We may ask you to re-authenticate yourselves. All of these are steps aimed at ensuring that as and when we see irregular activity on the platform, we're able to knuckle it down very quickly, and are able to then notify you, the user, in case something is wrong.
So on instances where a person is trading, for example, on the P2P, especially for people who are much newer, sometimes you go on the platform and you find instances where there's offers on the different coins. And there's one outlier, so to say, like, for example, Bitcoin at 90,000 or USDT when you're converting from your local currency. And one person is offering an especially good exchange rate and that sort of thing. And usually my experience has been that some of these people are scammers, and sometimes that's the only reason that they want to try and get you to see if you will fall into their trap, and then try to use the other methods to take you off the platform. Like, for example, telling you my bank account has a delay and that sort of thing.
Absolutely, and that's all scam-like behavior. We always say, do everything in-app. Anyone who says to you they can promise you a better exchange rate, absolutely impossible. We've got, we obviously leverage off the existing exchange rate on the Dow Jones and the various public exchanges. So no one can offer you a better exchange. No one will pay you more for the crypto than what we offer you on platform. That's generally the market value. Anyone who's offering you more is probably trying to scam you. Anyone who's offering you less, anyone has a problem with the banking app and says, do you know, I'll send you a cash send via a different wallet. Please just accept and transfer the crypto. All of those are, scam like, all of those are what we call unauthorized activities and are against our terms of use. And as and when we catch that type of activity out, we're able to take action against those users and potentially even terminate our relationship with them.
So one of the most often asked questions that I get is by people trying to onboard onto the platforms, whether on the P2P or on the marketplace itself, online, or on the website. And a lot of people find this difficult. They're struggling with the how, the what. So is there a way to simplify this process? Is there someone who will take them on? Specifically, I'm thinking about the Binance Angels on the various platforms, for example, on the Telegram channels and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so we certainly have authorized Telegram channels by our angels who effectively promote the product, and ultimately ambassadors of Binance. That being said, with respect to trading activity and behavior, we really encourage people. Don't even the angels, whilst they obviously mean well, they aren't there to provide you with any financial advice. So always go. You can go onto our platform. You can go onto our website, find the Binance Academy. You can use the academy to access various articles, or even we even call it short type courses, right? For instance, as in when you want to use one of our derivatives offerings, one of our competitive advantages at Binance is that what we do is to ensure that the product is suited to you and to ensure you understand it. We've got a bit of a quiz that we conduct, interestingly, where you almost read an article, then you've got a quiz, then we ensure that, okay, cool, you've got a firm understanding of the product and you'll be able to use the product effectively. And that's what, these are the things we really try to encourage and really drive users to, almost shift users towards, as opposed to listening to anyone attempting to tell them, which is the hottest coin in the market, which coin is doing well. Look, you can listen to those people, but that's definitely not what we refer to as authorized advisory things. We don't offer advice at all. Ours is merely to provide the platform. We provide a safe ecosystem, and then we want people to learn as they go along.
So I think that this would be a good juncture to point out that Binance actually has a platform that works at every level. So at the bottom of the pyramid for newbies, you have the P2P, then you have the usual market, what we call then the advanced, and then we have the derivative markets, which tend to be more complicated, and they have various different things. Yeah. Talk to us about that entire sort of stack of things.
Yeah, as you've set out, how it works is that it's intended to be a solution for every single user. So everyone should have our philosophy is effectively, we always say it's freedom of money. And when we say freedom of money, money can never flow freely if people are unaware of how to use the platforms. So we obviously provide services pertaining to, very entry-level spot trading, where you're really just, joining a platform, you buy crypto with your USDT or any currency, and that's converted and you hold and you sell, which is the very, I'll call it run-of-the-mill normal transactions. These obviously get more complex with respect to the various product offerings. You've got different earn products, you've got staking, then you move into your derivative markets where effectively crypto assets are an underlying type of product in a derivative trade. You've got and you obviously trading against other traders. You're hedging all of that. So all of these are tailored to ensure that even an ordinary user is able to come in, trade at a very ordinary level. They're trading for themselves. They've got no issues. On our platform, we've also got other financial service providers who are trading, or obviously have delegated mandates to trade on behalf of other people. And often those are the people we see using the more complicated products. But again, those products are not necessarily out of reach. I think we really try to drive financial education and financial access. And it's really to ensure that everyone has the ability to learn about a product and engage in it. And you can do that in our platform. I'm almost inclined to saying, we've got a product for everyone.
Mm-hmm. So that's actually good to hear, and that people can actually engage with the academy and that sort of thing to look at the how-tos. And let's get back to the practical tips, because I think that's what's useful for many, many different people. How can users recognize and avoid, so to say, especially phishing scams that are specifically targeting crypto investors?
Yeah, so often many of these scams involve, there's one fake websites, fake email addresses. So often, especially with respect to website, there's seldom anything new in the market. And it's always just important for you just to verify that this website actually exists. Often, I think what we've seen, for instance, even in emails, what they'll do is that you'll find that my work email is sam.nkiz@binance.com, for example. For example, they have a very slight derivative, deviation, where they'll say sam1 .mkizs at binance.com. Now, or at .co.za or something like that. Often they'll attempt to almost put themselves out as someone from the exchange, sending you an outbound message, asking you to respond, establishing that relationship of false trust, and then using that to manipulate you. And we always say, always double check the addresses, double check the email addresses. You can even confirm, we will never send you an outbound message. We'll never send you a message asking you for any of your personal credentials. You always do that in app. Anything you do on the Binance platform is always done on app. And that's how we ensure that we keep a paper trail of everything. It's obviously what we call immutable, meaning that it can never disappear. So anything that's happened on the exchange, we can always track and assess as to where what went and where and how. And that really ensures that staying on platform, for example. So that's one of the tips. Secondly, as and when you select your things like browser extensions, applications, we always say just employ an extra level of caution, just ensuring that you know exactly who you're sending what to. Often I think I'll obviously keep on repeating this point, but it's really just for emphasis that it will never be a legitimate email address. It'll never be but often it will look very similar to one. And on a cursory glance, you may be fooled into believing that this is a legitimate email from Sangil Mkhize. Now, for instance, you've even got deeper fakes, which are like what they call deep phishing and vishing, where someone will call you, they'll literally set up a whole potentially LinkedIn account. I would literally inbox you via LinkedIn, attempting to buy your trust and saying, look, I'm from Binance. This is our new platform, or this is a new website. Please click here so we can verify you. All of these are scams, tricks which scammers are using. Always do everything on app, and that's the most important takeaway. I think just with respect to tips here.
Mm-hmm. So then that is on the end of what users can do. At the Binance end, at the marketplace, what are the things that Binance has done to keep the users' funds safe and to enhance cybersecurity?
Yeah, so what we've obviously done is that we've got very low penetration rates on our app. So, not to be arrogant, but our app is very, very safe. We conduct various layers of authentication. These are also tested. We have stress testing for our application and our technology on an annual basis. These are ISO accredited and accredited by various independent third-party agencies, which ensure that the system functions, it functions effectively, and it's safe. Now, in addition, what we're then able to do at Binance is that we obviously ring fence user funds. Our saying is that our funds are SAFU, meaning that we've got what you call a secure asset fund. which effectively ensures that the business isn't running off user funds. The funds are ring fenced. We also, unlike most exchanges, most even other financial services in players in the industry, we have what you call a proof of reserves account, which we display very publicly, and the purpose is to ensure that you know where your funds are, and we do that to show that these funds are unencumbered. If anything ever were to happen, we will always have the ability to reimburse you if we find that the fault, for example, was in-app and we fell short on our security standards. So we definitely take both proactive measures to protect you, protect your personal information, but also more importantly, as and when, if in the unlikely event there is a breach, we are able to ensure that we upheld our end of the our end of the bargain by taking reactive measures, by reimbursing you, investigating appropriately, and also working with the authorities as well.
And good to hear, but for most people, then they hark back to history and they'll say maybe that's the same thing that Mount Gox said. We've seen some bankman fight more recently, those sorts of things. So where do we take comfort in knowing that you're actually doing the things that you say?
Yeah, look, so we obviously we're a public institution, as public as we can get. These things are obviously there; they're publicly available. We always, what should also give comfort is that we've also, partaken in licensing in various very tough jurisdictions, and working closely with regulators. And we would never do that if the platform wasn't up to speed. And we do that primarily because we want to establish trust. We want to ensure that we're creating a strong market ecosystem and effectively people are able to trade freely and fairly. Also obviously stopping people from things like market manipulation. We've got policies around that. We take action around that as well. All of these are important things which ultimately build up into creating a secure platform.
So quite good to hear then. And the questions that people ask apart from that is, when you think about the regulatory aspects across the continent, many different countries having taken, so to say, radical stands against cryptocurrency in the beginning, forcing users in some cases to go underground. We've seen many countries try to experiment with digital currencies at various levels of success, so to say. So talk to us about the regulatory experience, especially in regards to working with the banking sector and how you see that evolving for cryptocurrencies in Africa and the impact that that will have.
Yeah, I think as I see it evolve, what we've seen in various African countries is that we obviously still have regulatory uncertainty, which underpins a lot of issues pertaining to crypto assets or virtual assets. South Africa at the moment is engaged in a licensing process. And by 2025, they've already, for instance, have a repository for all exchanges. As part of the Financial Sector Conduct Authority's drive to ensuring that all crypto assets are declared financial products. You've seen something similar, more exploratory type documentation, for instance, even coming from the government of Kenya. We've been involved, for instance, at an industry level, even in Kenya, engaging regulators just on how the regulatory landscape will look over time. We've done the same in countries like Ghana. And very interestingly, when I look at stats, what we've seen is that a lot of African users, these are young Africans, are actually gravitating more towards the use of wallets over bank accounts. Now, while I can't give figures, for instance, I've done a study in Ghana, and one of the findings is that there are more people that hold wallets than people hold bank accounts. Now, these are things, for example, which are very important in assessing the relationship between the banking industry and the crypto asset industry. I don't believe it's necessarily one over the other. I believe this will all be at some point a symbiotic relationship as part and parcel of the ecosystem. That will be very important. And we obviously also really trying to drive legitimacy. And the banking industry is obviously a very important strategic partner in doing so. In South Africa, we work very closely with the industry, and I think we're seeing something very similar in other jurisdictions as well. And what we're seeing most importantly is regulatory recognition, right? I think the ability of to your point, given that at some point in time crypto assets were virtually blacklisted, we've moved from there to a point in time, and I'll make the example in Kenya. We were, for example, privileged to be part and parcel of associations that made contributions to things like the digital asset tax and other things. So, all of these are very important just in crafting and paving relationships, good relationships with the regulators. We're doing that across the continent, and we want to continue to do it up until such time as we've established a very good footing in various jurisdictions here.
So then the recent developments in the U.S., the election of President Donald Trump, giving a big boost to this. We've seen, of course, the fact that lots of financial organizations in the U.S. and beyond were, so to say, trying different ways of exposing their clients into the crypto space through exchange-traded funds and things like that. So how do you think the ecosystem will evolve now, especially because Donald Trump is seen as pro-crypto, at some point even a token with his face on it, and of course the Elon Musk aspect and the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, so to say, giving a real boost to the space?
Yeah, so look, I can't really comment on the politics, but for example, what I will comment on is what we've seen with respect to tokenization, right? So what we've seen a lot of institutional take-up of crypto assets. I'll give an example of BlackRock, which is the world's largest asset manager, effectively creating tokens, which is effectively, taking shares and tokenizing shares. Creating Bitcoin, Ethereum type tokens, and this to us is very ETFs rather, which is effectively part of tokenization, and that's so important because it effectively legitimizes crypto assets. And to your point, this also gives, albeit indirect, but exposure of both clients, both individuals and also institutional clients, even large asset managers, large pension funds, exposure to crypto assets, albeit in a more protected type environment. And we're looking at seeing more of that. And as that continues to grow, we're quite certain in that you'll see that also continue to legitimize crypto assets as a good store of value, and hopefully at some point in time even as a value of legitimate exchange.
As we start to wind up, let's talk about user data and the protection of that. For many people, that being a major source of concern. Talk to us about data protection and how people can take comfort in the way their data is being handled.
So data protection is obviously essential in our purposes. What we effectively do with data, we use multi-factor encryption. We've got very strict firewalls pertaining to data, and individuals can't just merely type in a user address and obtain data. There are various approvals internally to people's data. We only share that, for instance, in accordance with any country's particular legislation. I think a commonly accepted piece of legislation is the GDPR. We only share data in accordance with that. From time to time, we may receive, law enforcement requests, which we obviously need to abide by in aiding and assisting law enforcement in their investigations. At that point, we'd obviously need to share, user data. But in the main, we really take, data privacy very seriously. We pride ourselves of, just ensuring that we've got very strong systems with strong encryption to ensure that client data is protected.
That sort of wraps it up, Sam. Quite a big chunk of information for us to process. But again, a good start looking forward into the future, especially into the new year, as crypto sort of takes this huge leap forward, reaching, of course, for the $100,000 mark for Bitcoin, and of course the rest of the market following suit. But thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us here today. It has really been a pleasure tapping your insights and your knowledge. So asante sana. Thank you for making the time.
Greatly appreciated. And I think, what is it? Asante sana.
Yes, so we'll see you next time. And of course, to our viewers and listeners for taking the time to listen and watch us. Of course, this conversation will continue. We'll start to cut into this material in bite-sized pieces so that the next time we have him, we'll delve into one aspect of this space. We've barely scratched the surface. So thank you again for taking the time, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much, Sam. Yes, Sam, that's good. Asante sana. So we'll be
Thank you. Have a great day. Thanks.
starting to chop this down into little pieces. You'll notice we've sort of glossed over very many different things. So we'll get Clarence and Veronica to start having a discussion about how to drill down into the various topics. Like onboarding for me is a big deal. I get people on groups asking all the time how to onboard. This guy is asking for ABCD, those sorts of things. So how-tos, I think, should form a big part of our conversation going forward. Thank you.
No problem, no problem. Happy to help and all is available. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sharp.
All right, thanks guys. Thank you.
Asante sana.